Hey y'all, you know, a lot of these videos are done on the fly. And today, I decided to just open and see where I landed. And I landed on the book of Daniel, chapter 1. And Daniel is a really cool book in the Bible. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, let's explain who this is. Pharaoh Necho had killed Josiah, king of Judah, and installed Eliakim, Josiah's son, as a vassal ruler. Necho changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim, and he ruled for 11 years. Nebuchadnezzar II of the Chaldean dynasty, more commonly known as Nebuchadnezzar the Great, ruled Babylon from 605 to 562 BC. He conquered Jerusalem in 597 BC. So, he came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles of the house of God, and he brought them into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, little g, and brought the articles into the treasury of his little g God. And that is in southern Babylon, Shinar. And the Babylonian king told Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials were basically eunuchs, to bring in some of the sons of Israel, including some from the royal family and from the nobles. And for those of you who do not know what a eunuch is, it's a poor guy who, right before puberty, gets neutered, so he will be useful as a servant to the king without having to worry about him messing with the king's harem. So, told him to bring him some of the sons of Israel from the royal family and from the nobles, young men without blemish and handsome in appearance, skillful in all wisdom, endowed with intelligence and discernment, and quick to understand, competent to stand in the presence of the king. In other words, no idiots. And able to serve in the king's palace. He also ordered Ashpenaz to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans, sidebar here, dominated and ruled Babylon from 625 BC until the empire fell in 359 BC. But they were known as early as 1000 BC as an aggressive tribal people in the southern region of Babylonia. They were highly skilled in both the science of astronomy and the pseudoscience of astrology. They kept meticulous records of celestial motion and correctly calculated the length of a year within just a few minutes. Babylon, their capital city, was the center of trade and learning in the western part of Asia. The classical literature of the Chaldeans was written in cuneiform, but the common language, both written and spoken in Babylon, was Akkadian. Increasingly influenced by Aramaic. So these were some cultured people, even if they were barbarians. So the king assigned a daily ration for them from his finest food and from the wine that he drank. They were to be educated and nourished this way for 3 years. So at the end of that time, they were prepared to enter into the king's service. Among them from the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The commander of the officials gave them Babylonian names. Daniel he named Belshazzar. Hananiah he named Shadrach. Mishael he named Meshach, and Azariah he named Abednego. But Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile, or that is, taint or dishonor himself with the king's finest food, or with the wine which the king drank. See, the first portions of the food and wine would have been presented to idols before being served at the table. And he wasn't going to eat food sacrificed to idols, because that would go against his beliefs and against God and his. So he asked the commander of the officials that he might be excused, that he would not defile himself. Now God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the commander of the officials. And the commander of the officials said to Daniel, "I'm afraid, my lord, the king who has prearranged your food and your drink. For why should he see your faces looking more haggard than the young men who are your own age? You're going to look skinny and pitiful." In other words, and I'm going to be in trouble. then you would make me forfeit my head to the king. Yeah, he'd be in trouble. His head would get cut off. But Daniel said to the overseer, whom the commander of the officials had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let us be given some vegetables to eat and water to drink. Yum. Then let our appearance and the appearance of the young men who eat the king's fine foods be observed and compared by you, and deal with your servants in accordance with what you see. So the man listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, it seemed that they were looking better and healthier than all the young men who ate the king's finest food. All that greasy, good, delicious meat, but it was presented to idols first. So the overseer continued to withhold the fine food and wine and drink, and kept giving them vegetables. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all kinds of literature and wisdom. Daniel also understood all kinds of visions and dreams. At the end of the time set by the king, that would have been 3 years, to bring all the young men in before him, the commander of the officials presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king spoke with them, and among them all not one was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they were selected and assigned to stand before the king and enter his personal service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king consulted them, he found them 10 times better than all the learned magicians and enchanters, magi in parentheses, in his whole realm. And Daniel remained there until the 1st year of the reign of King Cyrus over Babylon. Now, this was at the end of the 70-year exile of Judah, the southern kingdom, and Babylonia, as foretold by Jeremiah. So Daniel was there for 70 years, so he was already a young guy when he got there. And this story goes on. It's very interesting between the visions and the things with the king and things that happen. So we'll continue on this book. I guess that's where God decided I need to talk out of, besides the other stuff in Corinthians I do on the weekends. Y'all have a wonderful week.